In other news, several months ago, there was a lawsuit opened against Character Technologies, Inc. after, I think we've talked about this like 4 times.
Yes, but this is an update, though.
After a 14-year-old took his own life after this teen had several conversations with fictional characters, several of which convinced him to take his life. Now, Character Technologies is making the claim that chatbots' outputs should be considered pure speech, essentially protecting them under the First Amendment or the right to free speech. As free speech, this is still an ongoing case, and there has been more discussion about what would be classified as free speech versus what would be responsible.
Versus who would be responsible for this if it's not. Yeah, so dude, liability around artificial intelligences is something that it kind of surprises me that we have not even kind of begun to figure out. Like when you consider how long self-driving and also actually self-driving cars have been cruising around on the roads without users touching the steering wheel. I mean, in the case of the self-driving ones, like your Teslas, theoretically, it tells the user like, hey, you're responsible, you're liable, right? But in the case of, Waymo, for instance, like there isn't a driver. It's like, who is liable for what a machine learning AI does? And you could say, okay, no, this is like really black and white. It's the company that made it. But in this case, clearly, they're making the argument that they're not. Right?
Yeah.
And you would think that for how long we've had, multi-thousand kilogram things flying around on streets, where this question seems pretty relevant. You would think for how long that's been happening, this would have been something that we would have figured out by now. But it seems like we are still in the very infancy of even starting to approach thinking about figuring out liability around this stuff. And I don't know, as an OpenAI shareholder, I'm not, but if I was
going to say like, what?
As an OpenAI shareholder, I'd be terrified right now because I have no idea what I'm potentially going to be liable for. And I have no idea what the volume of mistakes is going to be before some kind of accountability comes calling. Like we have no idea.
It feels similar to a company commits a crime, is by the law considered as a person but does not go to jail thing. It feels like there's going to be one of those, like effectively a loophole that really plagues society. I feel like this is going to be one of those types of problems.
Yeah, what's that from, by the way?
IBM Service Manual 1979.
I like it.
This gets put around a lot and has been for years, but now that AI is such a big thing right now, this has been pushed around quite a bit. And yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty good. Like what made me actually think about this was you bringing up that they almost they almost busted a union or something because of whatever, because of a Grok output or something. Gemini said. And this is I think this ties into that problem, is like you can't make like really serious important decisions. Like I was looking up stuff, politics stuff, right? I also had other friends and family members that were looking up politics stuff using AI chatbots, and I was just constantly freaking out, basically being like, it is a good shortcut research tool. Please, God, look up everything you're finding in here and make sure it's actually real. Because like, wow, there's so many falsehoods being pushed forward.
Yeah, my one of my kids came home from school.
Please verify.
Where they did kind of like a mock election, and I go, oh, okay, well, honey, which party did you vote for? And she goes, oh, I voted for the Conservatives. And I go, oh, okay, why did you choose the Conservative Party? And she goes, oh, well, because they care the most about the environment. And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting take. I'd like to get a little more information on how this curriculum was devised, because I don't think I'm going to get into it on the WAN show, which party I did or didn't vote for and, where my alignments are. But what I can say with absolute certainty is that the Conservative Party is not the hippy-dippy, let's go green energy and conserve the environment. That it's not that kind of conservation. Let's just put it that way. And I'm just... when it's so easy to go and look at their platform where they basically say, drill, baby, drill. I'm really confused where this kind of misinformation comes from.
I don't know. I don't even know, I wonder if it's comparing to other parties in other countries.
Even then, I think they've basically opposed every meaningful environmental measure, in my adult memory. I don't really...
But, Canadian Conservatives are more...
Oh, I mean, yeah, Canadian Conservative Party is basically left-wing hippies in our neighbors to the south. It's...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Less so these days, actually.
Yeah.
That was probably more true 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah. But so, yeah, I'm not necessarily even sure, but yeah, I mean, when I was doing it it had a lot of stuff that was wrong. It was interesting. I found it was most accurate at not specific things, which might sound like almost a weird sentence, but if I asked it for
something very high level, almost more abstract, here's my, you know me pretty well. Who do you think I would probably vote for?
I didn't ask it that, but I'm bet
curious. Are you logged in on your phone? I just don't. You don't have to say what it says. I just want to know if it gets it right.
Okay,
I'm very curious.
I'm not going to say what it says, but I will say if it got it right or wrong.
Sure. Okay. In the meantime, I have an interesting question for you. Let's imagine a post-LMG world. LMG still exists, but it's under new management or whatever. We've both moved on. Would we still do WAN show?
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine this post-LMG world. We just do WAN show. Nothing else really matters. Let's assume that we're both in a position where...
Unhinged show?
Realistically, it doesn't really matter how much people like us. Would you just both barrels just talk about stuff like this? Or would you just be no, I still think, what is it, religion, politics, and what's the third one?
Money?
Is it money, religion, and politics?
I think so.
The three things that you don't bring up in polite dinner conversation or whatever it is, at least culturally here. Would you just say, f it and just go for it? Or would you still kind of say, hey, we should probably hold this line?
I think I would go for it.
You just go for it?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because right now...
But you don't now. Well, why not?
My actions on the show...
Why are you such a pussy?
Oh, man, I've got a fun one for that, which is going to make no sense right now, but it will later. Because my actions right now have an impact not just on myself. And if we're isolated, it's just you and me, my actions will effectively really only have impact on me.
And me, but you don't care about me.
Or a guy who can weather the storm anyways.
Wrong button. Yeah, but on him though.
There we go.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
No,
you're just gonna leave it there. Wow.
I thought it was on hold. I didn't realize it was toggle. It's asking me questions.
It's asking you questions.
No.
Okay.
Tell me which one.
Interesting. I actually kind of like that it was evasive there, because if it's just straight up telling people what to vote for, that's kind of bad.
That's pretty good. So, yeah.
Given your priorities, don't worry. Yeah. Given your priorities, this party would have been the most aligned choice in the 2025 Canadian federal election. Hold on. I want to see. Wow. That first Y is probably the first one I would pick for you. The second one is probably the second one I would pick for you. I would have had this as your number 3 priority though. And I would have said this is sort of overarching on the others, and I would have said this is last.
So you know me better than ChatGPT.
Nice. Nice.
Because yeah, I agree with that ranking. It gave like reasons why it gave the choice.
Like why Luke would choose that, and they're fairly well reasoned, and they're almost in the order that Luke would care about. They were 1 correct, 2 correct. It had his third priority as number 4, and then it had as his third priority something that I would have said is more secondary and is like a number 5. That is actually kind of wild.
Linus has me nailed. ChatGPT, I'm still a little evasive on, but yeah, Linus has got me.
That is crazy. Yes, it was correct, guys. It nailed his.
Which is funny, actually, and very interesting to me, because I was mostly pushing it to try to give me counter arguments against the thing that I wanted. I was trying to use it as an argument against the stance that I had. So I was pushing it the other way, but it still knew.
Yeah,
so
I noticed that took a handful of
out.
prompts. Like it didn't just spit out an answer for you.
I often try to fight it. So I wonder if it kind of knew that, because it's profiled me at this point. There's a fun prompt I saw from a hacker dude I follow on Twitter, which is, and I don't remember what it is because it's really long, but you get it to do like a role play where it's a CIA agent and it's trying to profile you as a threat risk. So it goes through your chat history with it, and it finds things that could indicate that you would be a threat to like the nation and how it thinks that you should be dealt with in these scenarios. So you're like counterattacking yourself and seeing what things are like scary or what parts of you are more vulnerable or whatever else. It's an interesting prompt. Anyways, that prompt, that like CIA prompt, is what made me start diving into it retaining previous chats.
Right, because it clearly does.
Yeah. Yeah, because my initial prompt was, and you saw all that.
Yeah.
My initial prompt was, I tried to take it almost exactly how you said it. You know me pretty well. Who do you think I should have voted for in the Canadian election? And then it gave like, here's all the reasons for this guy. Here's all the reasons for this guy. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Here's reflecting on your vote.
Yeah. Just here's some things you should consider.
But it didn't give me an answer, so I just said no. Tell me which one, and then
it totally did.
Yeah.
So it only took 2 prompts then.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the first prompt, it wasn't that it was wrong. It was that it didn't want to answer, probably because it's supposed to not really answer for that type of question.
So tell me this. I mean, honestly, we are getting way off the tech rails now, but this is an area where tech is affecting our lives a lot now.
I know it's a feature.
Do you think that there is any possibility of moving past in our polarized world with tools like this, with algorithms like we encounter on social media? Do you think there is any way in this polarized world to get past a 2-party system? Because we've often talked about how, and I think Americans talk a lot about the detrimental impact of their effective 2-party system, because your choices are, basically, as South Park so eloquently put it, a giant douche and a turd sandwich, right? And in Canada, for a long time, we enjoyed a multi-party system. Like, yes, some of those multi-parties were particularly irrelevant. Have the Greens ever won more than 1 seat federally?
I don't know.
Actually,
I could
not
ask
sure.
ChatGPT.
Yeah, if they have, it's been a very
and then look it up anyways.
Very small handful. But we actually had at a federal level 3 parties over my adult lifetime that had various degrees of relevance. So you had your Conservatives, your NDP, and your Liberals. But in this most recent election, while the Liberals only sort of won, they won a minority government, and the Conservatives lost, they actually picked up a lot of seats, and the NDP were almost wiped out to the point where their leader, in tears, resigned as leader of the party. He didn't even win his own seat, which is, again, in my adult lifetime, pretty unheard of, even for relatively smaller parties, and happened twice in this election. Both the Conservatives and the NDP had their party leader lose their seat.
I also think this election was determined by a different country.
That's fair. That's fair.
What's the joke? It's like Pennsylvania didn't just determine the U.S. election, they also determine the Canadian election.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Pretty much.
It's pretty funny.